Here we are, back with another live stream. Hey YouTube, how are you doing? Let me get rid of my gate here and the microphone. Okay, it's disabled. Welcome to another week of Benny's live streams. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope you did enjoy yesterday's vlog number 2. I gotta say, this was so much fun to shoot all this footage and to cut the video for you guys and just show you around the stuff I do during my week. And so as every Monday we start with a Motivation Monday task. But first, let me play the jingle for you so we can start out.
It's Benny's live stream. Broadcasting live every night, 9 p.m. Central European Time.
That good shot? Oh God, I'm enjoying this jingle like every time I hear it. I hope you do too. Today, I want to talk about something that I've been trapped in plenty of times, hundreds of times. I'm talking about time management. Time management became a true art, and I think it will always evolve over time because the distractions evolve all the time, right? So we find ourselves facing a lot of distractions today, and it's our task to just stay away from all the seducing social media platforms and all the seducing YouTube videos that you could watch, all this kind of stuff. There's so much to do all the time. And by now, you probably found out that I don't really plan out my topics, especially like on more philosophical kind of topics as we discuss on Motivation Monday. So I just want to ask the questions out here on YouTube, and I want to talk about topics that I am thinking about anyway, right? So this is a live kind of experience, and I want to have a conversation with you guys speaking about these topics. And time management is a topic that is affecting me like crazily, right? Because I'm self-employed, and basically as a musician that's self-employed, I could work 24/7 every day of the week, 24 hours, right? So there's no defined end. There's never going to be a defined end. There's no such thing as an ultimate finish line where the tasks will just suddenly stop and drop. And so you probably know somebody in your surrounding that that is facing a task. Let's say it. Let's say something, I don't know. He or she plans out doing something. And this particular individual says, oh, stuff like, I'm never going to make this in time. I'm never be able to hit the deadline. I don't know how to do this. All this kind of stuff, all these kind of excuses, that sounds very negative, but it's not real excuses. It's more like a sign of overwhelm, right? So, and I bet you already also know that once you had a task, 99% of the times you overestimated this kind of task, and all your concerns were not really necessary once you're starting out with something, right? Because when you're in the process, usually the stuff feels a lot easier, and you can follow along the steps that that are necessary to accomplish something with more ease, right? So, and the whole thing about time management, what I think and what I experienced from my work so far, is like a simple phrase. There's just too much to do in too little time, right? So it's as easy as that. So all your time management problem, let's say we talk about tasks that we need to do in a certain period of time, or a certain amount of time, um, always runs into the same problem if you're having too much to do in too little time. It's as simple as that. So here's my solution: just simply plan more time. It's as easy as that. Because if you're planning more time to do a task, um, you will not get this feel of overwhelm in the first place, right? So let's face the troubles that we can, or the issues that we can face with planning more time. Um, Obviously, sometimes we run into deadlines and we have to accomplish something in a certain amount of time, and so this is like the stuff where I ask myself like frequently how to accomplish a certain thing, um, and like everything we do, everything we need to do can be separated in steps, right? So usually when we say stuff like I don't know how to do this, I don't know uh, how to hit the deadline and stuff like that, is because we don't know the individual steps to take, and we only see like the mountain, and but we don't see like the steps that we have to take on the way up, right? So that's like my first piece of advice, because I ran into this problem so many times. But let me first read some comments here. So I want to make sure this is a conversation today. It's not like a topic that I want to teach or something, because I want to just share experiences on that topic, because I think that's so important. So first of all, hi Jan, hi Jessica, hi Mike. Great to see you. Almost every day. It's so great. Um, Hi Juan. Okay, Jan asks a question. What I experienced during you means university was that I had motivation issue until it became a time issue. Unfortunately, the results were half-assed in the end because the time did not suffice. Okay, well, okay, but the truth is, I think, and this we'll get to this later. So I want to get there later. I first want to lead the way to something I've found working for myself, and this has something to do with this problem that you're kind of describing there. Um, so Juan asked, "I'm learning music theory. Some recommendations to learn better." Sorry for my English. Your English is great. Your English is great. Um, Music theory. Well, don't regard it too much as theory. That's a piece of advice that hopefully is very helpful, because music theory itself is so abstract. It's like learning maths in school. You kind of don't know what most of this stuff you learn is good for in your life later, right? Although you already like thinking about being a scientist in like rocket, I don't know, rocket scientist that wanna put something together to fly to Mars or so. So there you can already see where this is going to, and what you actually need all this stuff for. But most of people that are learning and they're new to music theory regard it as a theory part, and they forget that all of this theory is just a tool to be connecting with something emotional, right? So let's say, for example, melodic minor. Melodic minor has a certain sound, and we call it melodic minor because we want to recreate that kind of sound, and we want to give it a name because we want to help ourselves to remember the name of a sound, so we can just connect sounds. And that's why we came up with scales. That's when we came up with chords, chord symbols, all that kind of stuff. So never forget what the theory is actually meaning, right? And most of the times you're gonna find yourself, if you're already playing an instrument, you're gonna find yourself in the situation where you actually just need a name for something you know from just hearing it while you're playing it. So you just have a name for it as soon as you learn it. Okay, so that's my piece of advice for learning music theory. Hope that helped. Okay, so back to time management. I talked about like seeing the mountain only, like not seeing the individual steps, and that's like the first piece of advice that I want to show the world, because every hike, every journey, every marathon, every step to the moon starts with a first step. And all the steps are usually just laid out perfectly in front of you, but it's your task to put them in order and to give them priorities and to just split them up logically for you. And this can be completely different than the logical order for somebody else. And you need to be aware of that. Find your own way to divide tasks in like separate like pieces of tasks that you can follow along easily and with more ease. That way you don't like get this feel of overwhelm so hard. And so the better you plan it out, the clearer your road is on the long haul, right? So a lot of people regard like planning out on a task as a waste of time sometimes, but actually in the end what I found for myself is that you're actually saving time at the end. So I do put up a lot of checklists, I do put up a lot of to-do lists, and like 5 years ago, this was me. I would put up something on my to-do list. Then I was thinking about, well, okay, I could do this in on this day as well. So I put it on my to-do list. And at the end, I had like, I don't know, up to 10 or 15 to-dos on my list, which is kind of crazy because these were all like super important tasks for me. And here's another piece that I found out. The more important a task is for me, the more time I want to spend on this. And this is something very natural, right? If something is important for you, you're gonna like spend time to achieve that. And so yeah, this is like my first tip that I want to give you. Split it up in easy to handle kind of pieces that are fun, that are more enjoyable, and plan out the stuff. So back to the beginning, where I just said like there's too much to do in too little time. We said, okay, we could do like division of the big part, and just follow along the individual steps. So this would probably mean that we just trick ourselves and tell ourselves that we have less to do, right? And the other thing that we could do is because we have too much to do in too little time, we could just expend the time, right? And this goes along with the thing I just said. We easily plan a lot of time for the stuff we like doing, right? So this goes along with all our hobbies. This is like with a certain skill set that we want to learn, or Yeah, so like everything we like to do, it's easy for us to access more time because we want to do it, right? So let's say for the stuff we don't want to do, why not at least take more time to do it, or like plan out more time? Because 99% of the time, if I plan out something that I don't like, I usually plan too little time for that because I don't want to do it long. I don't want to spend like 2 hours on uh, my monthly books, or I don't know, like emptying my hard drives or so. I don't want to do it because I hate to do it. But often you find yourself that these kind of tasks usually soak up the most time, right? So because there's always something happening, there's always a problem that you need to solve, there's always something that's coming in between, so distractions and all that kind of stuff. And my piece of advice on that is that, or at least for myself, is I want to count with I want to count on distractions. I want to plan with interruptions. I want to just like plan longer time for tasks that I don't like to do, right? And in the end, what usually ends up, if I don't know, I'm planning 2 hours to do something I don't like. I don't know, like cleaning a window, or cleaning like 3 windows at least for 2 hours. I mean, that's a big ass window, but we usually don't like that, right? So let's say just housekeeping, and I wanna clean up my apartment, and I give myself 2 hours for that. And what I end up doing is I'm cleaning my apartment, and I'm done after like 90 minutes. So that's cool, right? And that's a great feeling of motivation that you have right there, because you finished something before the estimated kind of finish line. And that's something very motivating, especially with tasks that you don't like. So also what I would recommend is, if distractions, or if like throwbacks, or any kind of interruptions happen, take record of them, and write them down in your journal, or in your notes app, or wherever, just to remember which kind of obstacles were happening, with all the tasks that you did, because you can overcome them easier if you take note of them. If you run into the same problem, like, I don't know, the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year, whenever you want to do this task again. So, I also want to warn you about. I really want to warn you, and please stay away of that, because I've been there myself plenty of times as well. I was in a kind of hustle through mindset for a very long time. So I had this mindset of I can only be productive. I can only be more productive than others, and I can only be more creative, and I can only have more output if I'm hustling through. And I gotta say, I just found the beauty. I just found out the beauty of the phrase that says "work smart, not hard." Because with all this advices that I just mentioned earlier, I found myself I'm working in smaller pieces. So I give myself more time overall to accomplish something. And what usually ends up, I'm accomplishing the stuff earlier than I expected him expected myself to. So this is motivating, right? And I was like a workaholic. I still am, I guess. So I'm constantly putting out something right now. I'm always working for somebody. I always work for myself. But I found myself laying on the floor with no energy at all, right? And just because of this hustling through mindset, also because I didn't give myself enough breaks during a task, also I didn't plan out my tasks very well. So in the end, this lack of energy will cost you so much time. So you're actually losing time in the end. And I really found this out the hard way. So please consider that yourself if you're facing a task. Okay, so let me read some comments before I continue with what I've written down as well. Okay, thanks for the recommendations. Unfortunately, my teachers of university are so strict in theory. We're listening to Bach, Beethoven, Haydn, and they don't let me separate a music theory. Is that so bad? Well, that's really interesting because I ran into this problem at my university as well. Um, Not as much because they were not like classically strict with like the classical literature, but they were kind of strict with like jazz theory, which is their job, so they need to be strict with that, right? So, but we're talking about how you can make it a little more accessible for you, right? So I think this is something you need to consider, because you're actually going to university to learn something in a certain like part of music, I guess. So you're learning theory, you're learning your instrument, you're learning about history, probably all that kind of stuff. Yeah, probably gonna learn about business too, and all this kind of stuff comes together with like the big Bachelor of Arts or Master of Arts, whatever it is you're studying. Um, so it's kind of their job to be strict, and they want you to really learn it, and you want to learn it too, right? You want to just have this tool available to you and accessible. So just for your personal interest, um, just never forget the practical side of things in theory, because theory came along to explain what is happening, not the other way around, right? There was no such thing as, okay, here's a try. This is a triad. We stuck up thirds. We stack up thirds, and we have all the names, but we don't have music to it, right? It was the other way around. So make that make that information accessible in your mind, and always combine it with a sound that is happening. Okay, overrated music productions. I wish I would have the chance to take such classes in uni, but I guess this always accounts just as long until you sit bored in the Haydn class when you actually want to do pop music. Well, this is about finding out what you want to do. That's very important. And I don't know if you guys saw my previous Motivation Mondays, but I've been talking about this earlier as well. Um, I'm not a real big fan of learning, like general learning, and this would be such an example, because they make you learn something that is probably nothing you actually gonna need in the end, because you actually want to do pop music. But I think general learning is great for people that don't know what they want to do with the information that they're getting. But with people that are knowing exactly what they want from the beginning, this is a very hard thing to do because there's there can be use in learning something, and I want you to be open for that if you're like visiting one of those classes. But um, it can be getting in your way if you need to learn like everything about everything, but actually you know that you want to learn like this other thing, right? So there's no use in that, um, because this will get forgotten in your brain anyway. It's like the same thing that happens to all the stuff, most of the stuff we learned in school, in high school. Unfortunately, because this is very, very interesting information, but most of it we never gonna use again, and we're never have it accessible again in our lives because we're programmed to forget, unfortunately. So it's our task to keep our minds fresh with the stuff we actually want to have accessible in our brains. I do what I don't like first because it requires more attention from me, and only later I do what I actually like because it's easier for me. Um, yeah, that's a good way to do it. But sometimes I found myself doing like the stuff I don't like first, and I got so frustrated, so I didn't end up doing the stuff that I liked because I was so frustrated that the tasks that I didn't like took forever. And so to me, like planning out a lot of time and finishing before the deadline worked served me a little better than like just only doing stuff I don't like first thing in the morning or so. Cleaning windows is my kryptonite. No, that's the truth, but at the same time, I think that those musicians are the soul of the music of our days. Absolutely, absolutely. So if you're genuinely interested in the topic, you probably will learn it a little easier as well. So maybe you just need to remind yourself about the beauty that lies in there, and maybe you just need to make a connection how you actually can make this accessible for what you really want to do. This is a true art form as well. Overrated. I believe it really depends in what part of the music you're interested. Many people are more interested in how something sounds rather than why it sounds like that. True, and that's totally fine. I've played and I worked with so many artists that didn't know anything about music theory. Um, they couldn't name the chord that we're playing, but as long as the chord sounds great and it builds a connection to you, they did a great job, right? In fact, most of like the very major successful artists, like a very short number has a like basic musical education at all. Speaking of like university level or college level, that's completely different in the real world. Um, yeah. So at least um, from my experience. Don't bore us, bring us the chorus. Haha, getting good advice. Well, that will come back. You also have to decide what kind of musician you want to be. Classical, improvisational, rock. Right, that's what I mean. That's true, Michael. I'm studying bachelor degree in music. I think that's the name in English. Yep. So I want to do a lot of stuff. I love to play funk, but at the same time, I want to be orchestra director. Okay, so decisions to make. One like Michael League of Snarky Puppy. That's true. Wow, you don't know Snarky Puppy? Yeah, he's a master. He's a master. Um, the funny thing is, um, I've experienced this a lot of times in my life. Being a very versatile musician or a versatile human being, um, often is regarded not as good as it should be. Like, A lot of people and a lot of educators out there tell you to only do one thing and do it right. That's totally fine. You can do one thing and you can do it right. That's important. Um, but why the heck should you not learn something else if you're genuinely interested in something? That's super stupid, and you can reach major level success, whatever this means to you, because you need to define success before that. Um, but you can achieve that kind of level, and there's nobody that tells you that is allowed to tell you that you're not able to do it. Um, I just think that's super stupid and very narrow-minded. So every time about if somebody comes up and tell you something like, okay, you do this and that, um, make sure you tell them that you're genuinely interested in the stuff that you do, that you have passion for it, and this is why you learn a second, a third, a fourth skill. And I don't know. I've experienced that plenty of times, especially if you're a musician that plays in multiple genres or have multiple styles of music within a record. I've been talking to A&Rs of major labels telling me we don't know in which box we should take you. Your music is just so different. Like every song sounds different. And I told him, well, this is exactly what I want my music to be, because every song is different, right? Every song tells a different story. So I wanna be able to tell different stories. Listen to a Bruno Mars record. Every song sounds different, and still major success. So all these theories don't hold up. Benny, what is your story with the music? How do you start to learn and think? This is what I want to dedicate my life. Oh, I've started to dedicate my life to music in a very very early stage in my life, because it was all around, and um, yeah, I just loved it too much. I got stuck in it, but I also I've I just found myself playing for hours and hours and hours and never get bored. Um, Back in the day. Today, I wouldn't say that I practice as much as I maybe should be. But same thing. I practice very determined to the goals that I need to achieve in a short amount of time. So I try to learn the skills necessary to achieve a certain goal, instead of like learning everything about everything, because I took the time to really really think and dig into my honest goals. And my honest goal is to play my music and to present my music, to create music to as many people as possible. So this is what I dedicated my time to. Hope that answers your question. Yeah, I felt that nowadays it's more important than ever to learn as much as you can as a musician, from production to mixing to recording. Um, right. I know a lot of people that are just not able to make a living from music because they were totally refusing to learn multiple skill sets. And I think that's just, I don't know, a waste of talent, right? Because musicians are very talented people usually, and they have a very strong brain, so they could easily access multiple skill sets. Life is too short to study music. I would say that life is too short to study bullshit, but music is no bullshit. Just regard it as tools. Juan, studying music is a lifelong pursuit. That's true. You can never know everything. It's what makes it great. That is so true. And as long as we have like this 12 tone system that we have, I don't know. We're never gonna break into something like completely new. Um, I think it's a nice overview of what we're actually able to do with these 12 notes, but still come up with a lot of new stuff. Um, so just take the effort and learn it. Um, and the most important thing is just finding the connection to the sound, right? Okay, so what else do I have on my list here? Oh, this actually goes along with the last point that I have on my list right here. So another piece of advice regarding time management, especially if you're self-employed, especially if you're in the creative field, just accept the fact there's no such thing as an ultimate finish line. There's always something more to do, right? And so I just say that because so many people are uh, binding their happiness to achieving goals and to just like finishing tasks that are on their to-do lists. There's gonna be another to do. There's gonna be another to do tomorrow. There's gonna be a brand new set of to dos within the next weeks. So just accept the fact and don't make your happiness too dependent on crossing off things off your list. So also, I want to just warn you about toxic mindsets that I ran into whenever I had the feeling of overwhelm time wise. So stuff like I never gonna make it and telling yourself I never gonna make it leads you to the road that you're actually not gonna make it. So this feel of overwhelm is super, super toxic and usually not necessary, because if you look around, somebody most of the times already did it, right? If you're not planning to fly to the Mars or like discover new galaxies, even that can be done. So there's people actually believing that they could do it. So you should believe in the completion of your tasks as well. Should be doable at least. And also a toxic mindset that I ran into was, and I ran into that a lot, is that I was telling myself that I'm gonna miss out on something when I was doing something. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry, my battery just ran out. Gonna change it real quick. Oh. This is my webcam camera, by the way. Okay. So, as I said, I'll miss out on something was a toxic mindset that I ran into a lot, and I think that's the most toxic mindset, because that means you don't have your priorities set right, and this can be very toxic. And the truth is, what I found out, you will always be missing out on something because there's so much going on all the time. There's so much stuff to do. There's so many ways you can do something, and that's totally fine. I kind of blame like social media and the internet for this kind of feeling, because we're bombarded with the impression that a lot of people are super, super busy and super successful with achieving their goals and living their dreams and all that kind of stuff. So we actually find ourselves in a lot of pressure to get that too. And so you always think that they did something that I didn't do, and they found a more clever way to accomplish the goal and all this kind of stuff. So be aware of this fact that there's always something that you're gonna miss out. Right? I don't know why my camera is not working anymore. By the way, this is a task to solve right now. It's super weird. Didn't happen ever. Okay, so also what I found is I ran into the problem that I told myself that, and Jan told that, so that my results I came up with were not good enough, right? So well, you did the best you can in the given amount of time, right? So at least take a minute to be proud of your result because you accomplished something in the time, in like within the deadline, right? And we like to destruct our results so much if we're not proud of them, right? And the only way to get better in a certain short period of time with any given task is just to do it more often, to study the mistakes we made in the first place, to not do them again in the second run, and optimize wherever we can with anything. And so we need to take record on that, and that's the point where we could actually start to improve a skill set, something that we want to learn, something that you might not want to learn. But yeah, I think that taking record of the mistakes and things that didn't go wrong, didn't go well, is one of the most crucial things if you want to achieve this level of excellence and like this easy kind of feel of flow within a task. I think that's a pretty important point. Okay, so let me read some comments. When studying music is a lifelong pursuit, you can never know. That's what makes it great. That's true. We read that already. Right, Moroccan jazz. That's my favorite. In my university, I have a subject called aesthetic, and it's only philosophy. Benny, what is music for you, and what is not music? Pooh. Music can be everything, man. As long as it is meant to be music. I mean, music. Well, tough question. Music is so subjective because you can hear music in basically everything. So, for example, right now, I'm hearing the hard drive, and it's kind of like a little hum that's going on, and it's so cool. It sounds so great. So I can hear music in that, but I don't think it's like thought as music. So I don't know. It's super subjective, and I think you can find music in everywhere, in everything and everywhere. You just need to keep your eyes and ears open. And still, music is something that we hear and we listen to. So I think you just keep your ears open and be ready for music to hit you at any point. So I can't answer this like in a easy way, I guess. Music can be everything. And everything is music. Think about that. I don't know why my camera is not working anymore. It's so strange. That's super strange. Okay, I try to hook it up one more time. Ah, here we go. So, see? That could be music. That could be a song right there. My camera's not working anymore. It just don't does what it does. See? You can make a song out of everything. There are badass players in every country playing all kinds of great stuff. That's true. That's very true. But when they flew to the moon, they did it as a team, not alone. Oh, good point. Good point. There's also a thing called egomaniacs. If you're facing a task, okay, let's be completely and brutally honest. I was an egomaniac with my time management, okay? I wasn't like super cocky or something, meaning that all of my tasks, only I could accomplish all these tasks in the most excellent way possible. That's never been in my mindset at all. Okay, so this said, I learned to establish the value of help. Right? So, I just found the beauty in collaboration, in working together as a team on a task. And I really, really needed to learn to ask for help because I was so, how do I say, I was not very believing that some other people could come up with the results that I was expecting them. So I was very, very strict with them, and I was just fearing the process of asking for help in certain parts of my projects. So I didn't end up asking for help because I just was too afraid of it. I wasn't afraid because of the results. I was afraid to not be satisfied with the results that others are giving me, right? And I just found the beauty that in help because people could actually grow together, and this is the most inspirational thing that could happen. That happens as a band, like in rehearsing in a garage. That rarely ever happens if you're working on music online, because the distance is just too far apart usually, and you kind of lose this intermediate connection. And I really, really, really hate that because the this close connection between musicians, between producers, and all that kind of stuff, really is what makes you grow in the first place. So never be afraid to ask for help because you're fearing to tell somebody you don't like their results. It's always the tone that makes the melody, right? If you're not, let's say we're not happy with how the drummer recorded our song or whatever. I'm staying in the music field here. You can tell him, okay, man, your recording sucked. So that is not very motivating. I kind of like the sandwich approach on that. So start with something positive, then like put the negative aspect thing in between, and then end off the critique with something positive again. So, for example, the drummer did a bad job on the recording. So you tell him, man, I truly appreciate you taking time on that, and I hope you had fun with my track. First of all, I just want to thank you. I have some some pieces that I would love to change. So if you had the time to take like 1 or 2 more takes, I would truly appreciate that, because it's not the way it was intended in my mind. So please, let's work together on that. And this part is very important, because you're working as a team, and you always need to make that as clear as possible, that you're actually working together on something that's greater than the two of you. And so, and end off with something positive. So, but I gotta say, I really liked the way you played this part, or the sound of this is just insane. It made my mind blow. Thank you so much. And even though maybe at this point it's not 100% true, but always be aware of the fact that motivation is always leading to better results than like harsh critique. Okay? Be aware of that. Anything you do, if you wanna make the best result possible, and you're actually working together on something, always encourage your partners, always encourage your employees to strive for more excellence, right? And this can be done with a little critique, but always do it in a nice way. I think that goes a long way, at least from what I experienced. Okay, so I read a couple more comments and then I wrap up the video. It's already been 50 minutes. I was planning to do 30 today. See? So I took more time. Okay, we got that. Benny, I used to tell my students to forget about what the guy is playing, be the best you possible. That's great. Although I think it's very important to have like idols that we can look up to, and that we want to first imitate as much as possible, just to get the feel out of this that we like, right? So, but yeah, you're totally right. Be the best version of you possible. It's fine to be self-critical, learn and move on. True. Question: when you plan to create an album, how do you lay it out time-wise? How much pressure you put on yourself? Actively dedicate time to find references and inspiration. Well, I do, and I said this in the beginning of the video. I do use a lot of checklists, and I do use a lot of timelines and all that kind of stuff. So I plan out, an album is like a mountain to climb, right? But they're like super, super important steps that you need to make one after the other to get to the mountaintop. So first of all, I want to lay down what I need to do. So let's say, for instance, we wanna create an album with, let's say, 10 songs at least. So what is going to be the first task that we have to do is write 10 songs. Easy as that. Before you didn't write 10 songs that you know that you want to put on the record, nothing else matters, right? So I try to stay focused on the priorities, and I try to stay focused on which steps are prior to another, in order to climb the mountaintop, which is like Grammy Award or whatever. I haven't figured that out yet in my checklist, but I will someday, I hope. And so yeah, I lay down, I divide the big task of making an album into like smaller pieces and that are easy to chew. Kind of like if you're eating a steak. I don't eat steak because I don't eat meat, but if you're chopping up a steak, you put them in pieces that actually fit your mouth, right? So I do the exact same thing with my album. I just chop it in pieces and do one bite after another. Easy as that. And the tough thing about music is that you cannot count on inspiration to be floating in like a hole that you just dug in, because like water comes out wherever it wants to come out. So be aware of that. That goes along with the theory that I made with um, counting on mistakes, counting on throwbacks, and plan with them. So and save time for that. Learn from your mistakes, take record of them, and find a better way to overcome an obstacle in the next project. So this is like how I lay it out time wise, and I kind of give myself as much time as I need to. Um, Sometimes it can be very, very helpful to have a deadline. So, but if you, yeah, I mean that kind of like goes the other way to what I've talked about before. But I usually set myself a deadline. Let's say, for instance, I want to create a song in 5 hours. Okay, so song meaning melody, lyrics, chords, right? Nothing more. That's a song. A song to me is melody, lyrics, chords. And all of these individual parameters could be applied in the production process. So I want to give myself enough time, um, enough time for each of these individual steps, which are a step in like the bigger step to the biggest step, right? So all of these chopped up pieces, one after another. And before you didn't like eat the whole thing, nothing else matters. Okay, how much pressure you put on yourself? Well, I just found that pressure is nothing very motivating at all. Pressure leads, especially if it's a negative pressure, and time pressure is usually very negative, because it makes your heart rate go up, your blood pressure is rising. I don't think that's very healthy, and sometimes, especially with inspirational tasks, it's good if you put yourself onto a deadline, but do not expect yourself to come up with the best result within this time. It's important to set yourself a deadline and to get something done in this amount of time, but you can always like tweak it here and there in the production process, because it's not like we write a song and that's it, right? The song is done when we put it out there, then and only then, right? So I try to give myself as much time as possible without stressing out, because usually I don't come up with great topics and great stories to tell if I'm writing something under pressure. Okay, actively dedicate time to find references and inspiration. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Although I don't really listen to stuff and tell myself I want to sound like that, and I want to have this element here and like that. I only listen to references if I'm mixing, of course, and I also listen to references to just get inspired, basically. So I wanna pick up a vibe. I wanna learn about how they created a vibe, or what it is that I like about a certain song, and maybe I wanna reproduce something similar. But I never look for like 100% references that I want to copy. I think nobody does. Nobody that's not in the mainstream industry. Well, I have to continue studying C. Thanks, Benny, for answering my questions, and thanks to those in the chat. See you, Juan. Thank you so much for joining us today. Jessica says, yes, it is always also important to know how to ask for help and delegate tasks if possible. Exactly. And I think that's it for today, I guess. So I hope this thinking process was inspiring for you and it made you think about how you approach time management. If you have like the ultimate thing for you, just be happy about it, and maybe you can spread it here in the comments. You can share it with us, because I'm always curious for new opportunities to optimize my time management, and just to get things more done, to get more things done and with more excellence. So thank you in advance for that. Last question, then I'll leave you alone. Best song you listened to lately? Oh, best song I listened to lately. Wow. Joey Landreth. No. He has wonderful songs. I'm so sorry. He has wonderful songs, so go check him out, Joey Landreth. But I gotta say, I really love the song by Bruno Major that is called, forgot the name of the song. Nothing. Go check it out on Spotify. It's such a beauty. It really, really made my heart melt, I gotta say. And yep. Bruno Major, Nothing. Go check it out. Thank you so much for being part of today's live stream. It's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed it. And I play the jingle, and I'm going to say goodbye for tonight. Have a wonderful week. Stay inspired. I hope I could inspire you a little bit. And I'm going to see you tomorrow for a brand new live stream. Thank you.
It's Benny's live stream. Broadcasting live every night, 9 p.m. Central European Time.
Good night.